I tell you what I see. If our young people are being raised up by social media and the internet, and I challenge anybody who doesn't believe what I'm about to say, if you go onto TikTok, if you go onto YouTube, if you go onto any of the social platforms, you don't have to search almost any before you find some very, very vehement anti-British sentiment. Anything from, lots of jokes about how stupid and fat British people are, about to how wicked colonialism was. And I spoke to a big group of young people recently, and they were going about colonialism. And I said to them, yes, it had many horrors, but you show me any nation in this world that has a clean historical slate. And they were stunned because they'd only been sort of bombarded with what's wrong with Britain. And I said, you see the conversations we have about racism and what we have about LGBT rights, etc. They said, do you believe many other countries in the world are having these conversations? So yes, we have a checkered past like every other nation of note, but also we are quite a learned nation. We're constantly talking about these things, constantly trying to improve. But that's a version of Britain they were never given. They weren't told that one of the biggest humanitarian presence on the planet is our armed forces. They do so much humanitarian work, but they're not given that version of the country. And I think some of it is nefarious from outside forces, teaching the young people of Britain to hate Britain. Other parts of it are activists in the country who are so focused on their one issue, they're trying to tear down all that is Britain to elevate their issue. And I wish people would step back and ask themselves, what are they doing to our young people? Because if we're divided against ourselves, we'll never succeed as a nation. And any hopes and dreams you have, no matter what your sort of political bents are, will be destroyed as the nation is destroyed. And that conversation isn't had enough. We're not talking about ourselves as a whole. And of course, when we doubt ourselves, hate ourselves, it means that anybody can sell us a new belief, and we'll grasp onto it because we don't believe in who and what we are.
Do you think the social media companies are playing quite a negative role in all of this? As you mentioned, TikTok's flooded with all sorts of things, and these are companies that are kind of based outside the UK, but are having a massive influence on our young people.
I don't want to focus on any particular social media company because I think they all have massive problems. But I will say one thing about TikTok. TikTok in China looks significantly different to it does in the Western world. In China, you would let your child look at it. It has homework stuff and all the rest of that. It's quite, I don't want to use the word wholesome, but it is a significantly better than what our children are exposed to the Western world. And the reason I make that point, because it shows you that it could be cleaned up. It's about will. It's about will. Yes, we have lots of talk in the West about censorship, but our children are being exposed to the worst aspects of human existence routinely, and nobody's intervening. And I do think the social media companies, they have a responsibility. And then when you read things in the paper that, some of the senior executives of said companies won't let their own children on there, it makes you wonder, well, why would you expose my children but not your own? And I think we are approaching a point where Western governments may start to change their interaction with these media companies, because these media companies have great leverage. They are massive, massive financial institutions. They provide great levels of employment, high-paying employment, but there's a point where their social damage outperforms their economic benefit, and I think we're approaching that point.